Yes.
Did you bring the boxing gloves? You got the gloves in the back?
I did not bring the gloves. Those were actually in a client's building. I felt bad stealing them just for the episode.
The ones I remember were red.
You got the wrong guy.
Maybe it was
I think
somebody's
it
blood.
was Balzer then.
Might have been. Might
So-
have been.
So, there was a time where you two were pretty thick, and the left hand knew what the right hand was doing.
To do that.
So until I find those gloves, I'm gonna get pinned with that story. So
I'm leaving it at your feet, man. I don't remember bringing them.
I'm pretty sure
Kevin
it's Balzer then.
Kevin keeps getting blamed for stuff that he never did.
I admit that, like, I walked in and I saw some guys boxing for a while, and I never stopped it. And then when Janine pummeled that girl, then it was like, I think we all knew it was time to quit.
I don't remember that actually, but I'm gonna need you guys to jog some memories for me.
Maybe you
I've
weren't
got
there,
some
Evan. We just
stories.
assumed that
Yeah,
every foreignerness was you. So
maybe so.
hey, so welcome to the Yac-ity podcast. We always start with the same question: what the heck are we trying to do here, Greg? What are we trying to accomplish?
I think we're kind of winging it. But it's a great way to reconnect with people, and just kind of catch up and shoot the breeze and tell some jokes.
We've talked over the years about trying to get everybody together, and I don't think that'll ever happen. But this is a way to kind of like have all those little conversations when you want to have those. So kind of on the schedule. So all right, Evan. First question: what year did you graduate from high school?
Yes, sir. I graduated in 1997.
Okay.
97. 1 year.
Oh, we lost
Oh
him.
no!
And that's our episode, folks. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you
The
next
rest of
time.
it had to be edited.
Like-
It was not appropriate.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, we're no stranger to technical difficulties.
All right, we'll start again. Hey, Greg, what are we trying to accomplish here?
Well, we're trying to get technology to work, first of all. But I think we're just reconnecting, shooting the breeze, catching up with each other, that sort of thing.
Okay, good.
I also
So
think
tonight we
since-
have Evan LaRue as our guest. Evan, what year did you graduate from high school?
I graduated high school in 1997.
All right. So, hey, just give us like pretty like the 30,000 view life, like between 1997 and 2024, like something has happened. So, like, what's happened?
Yeah, good. After graduating Berean Academy in 1997, I had no idea what I was going to do, and I think I was about the only kid in the class that did not have a plan. So that felt kind of strange. But I remember my option was pretty much Wichita State, so my dad marched me down to the registrar's office, and we got the old paper catalog of classes, and we started choosing some general education stuff. So I ended up at WSU for, I think, 2.5 years. And in that time, thankfully, I was offered a little gig in the commercial real estate business by a classmate of mine's father in Wichita. And so I started working in the real estate business during college, along with the restaurant business at night. That's when Outback Steakhouse. How many of you remember Outback Steakhouse? That was
Bloomin'
kind of a big
Onion.
deal.
Bloomin' Onion.
That's right. That's right. So we were working there a lot and doing some real estate and going to school. And then I finished, fellas, my bachelor's degree at Tabor College's Wichita night class program, basically degree completion program, they called it. So I finished that up. I think it took me only about 5.5, 6 years. I'm sure you guys all got through a lot quicker than I did.
Greg.
You can relate, Greg.
7 years.
7 years. I hear you. And Kelly and I didn't get married till our late 20s, and that was probably an okay thing. I had a lot of growing up to do, and the Lord had a lot of work to do in my life, frankly, even post high school. And I've given my testimony. A lot of the foundational stuff that I learned um, back then in high school, I was able to bounce back to, but definitely had some wandering and some tough years there. So thankful for His grace and faithfulness.
So I'm
So I
trying to
got a
think.
couple questions. Kids, no
Yep.
Go ahead.
kids. I
Yeah,
know the
good
answer
question.
actually, but
We've got three kiddos. We have girl 15, girl 13, and then a boy 9. And so we are in the thick of it, if you will. Etta, Evie, and Henry.
okay. So when was the band? It could be worse.
Yeah, good question. I knew you were going to start asking for dates, and I'm worried here.
No,
I
just
think
like the span, because I remember hearing it could be worse a couple times. So
I think Kevin, that was right around my senior year of high school into my freshman sophomore year at college. Does that sound about right? Does that ring true?
yeah, I thought we even went longer than that, but so
Oh yeah, well probably a few more years. And then Matt, we played together a little bit back when we were
Yes.
young high school.
Flagman ahead.
There you go.
who
Matt on
was
the
in
drums.
Flagman ahead?
That's what Kevin wanted us to call ourselves.
Yeah,
It
nobody
was
liked that name.
Josh Graber, Andy Pankratz, Evan, and myself, I think. Am I missing anyone?
Well, if we are, they'll let us know, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I remember doing a couple tunes there at the church. And Greg, you're a guitar guy. You'll appreciate this. I remember getting the lapel condenser mic out of the sound booth, running an XLR to it, and then just dropping it in my acoustic guitar so it could amplify it.
It's like a
How'd that end up
pickup.
working?
It would have worked fine if somebody would have EQ'd it at the board, but we didn't know enough to do that.
So I remember we used to sing. We did the Monkeys.
I'm a believer. I'm a believer.
I'm a believer.
Or Last
We did
Train to
that.
Clarksville.
No,
I'm a
we
believer.
did I'm a Believer.
Okay.
We did Brown Eyed Girl. Did we had to have done something Beatles.
Well, do you
I
remember
think I tried.
we took that Untowards Offspring song and
Yes.
we changed the words to it. So we
God
could
esteem instead of self-esteem.
sing. Yeah.
And then that's what
Yeah.
we thought about calling ourselves. And Kevin's like, I'm not going to come see you if you call yourself
Yeah.
What
Something
were you
like
gonna
that.
call yourself? Say that again.
God esteem, because the song was called Self-Esteem, but we had changed the lyrics. Or actually, they had changed the lyrics. I was just the drummer.
So how
But
many
yeah.
bands since, Evan? Because I googled your name and like on YouTube was Brown Eyed Girl at some concert 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
Well-
you've been still rocking that song for a long time.
I've gotten a lot of mileage out of that one. You know what I did, guys, was I stopped naming them shortly after It Could Be Worse because we gain a member or lose a member. And so I just started calling it the Evan LaRue Band, which sounds super selfish, but I would just hire the best musicians that I knew. I'd pay them
Nice.
well, pay them on time, and we always had a good product. So generic as it may be, Kev, that's what we went to.
Okay.
So I have a story.
The Evan LaRue Band.
Yeah,
Nice.
I have a band story. So you remember, I don't know what they called it, but in the band shell behind the stadium, they had the Battle of the Bands. And I remember you and your dad were in one, and you had someone else maybe and then I was there with two other guys, and we were called Flannel Attack, and we wore flannel shirts.
That's cool.
Was that a
I
grunge
think-
band? Flannel Attack?
It was, I don't know. Do you remember Brad Worth? It was his older brother, Jared Worth. He was the guitarist. And then I can't remember the bassist's name. And then I was the drummer. And we played a couple songs and one of his originals. We didn't do very well. I mean, we sounded okay, but by no means did we win it. But just tell a story on Evan. I remember there was this other band that had some of the other high schoolers in it, and they like did Beastie Boys songs. And Evan, I remember you saying that you went up to the judge and you said you were offended because I think they did like the girls song, girls. Do, do.
So
So
not late Beastie
you
Boys,
went up
early
and
Beastie Boys.
Evan went up and got them disqualified for playing Beastie Boys to make to make the rankings better for everyone else.
Wow.
Do we
But
start the apologies this early in the show generally?
it's usually Kevin's
Did
had to
you
make a
any?
couple
Did
of
how
times.
who won that thing? Did Evan's band,
I
Gary LaRue band win or?
I don't know. Yeah, I know you guys did Yellow Submarine. I think I remember that.
That is a funny band name. If you remember, Kevin, we had Mike Miller's dad in that, who was a doctor, and it was Dr. Dave and the Interns. That was
Oh,
a good
I
name.
remember that.
That's awesome. I do remember the consolation prizes just for participating was free treats of pizzas at Dairy Queen. You know those they used to make those ice cream pizza things, so they gave us
Man, that's
coupons for
a lot
that.
of memories. That was a formative event in your life, Matt.
But
Did,
and go ahead.
well, did you ever play the band shell, Greg, there at Athletic?
Yeah. So
No, like I never really had a band in Newton to speak
Okay.
of, other than a few like just dabblings.
Okay.
yeah, he dabbled with Robin Harder and I at my house.
Yeah,
Robin
Raleigh
was
Walter
keyboard,
a couple times.
and then
what was
Robin
the
was
Robin?
keyboard.
What was the Robin Harder, Matt Andrus, Greg Reimer band called?
We didn't have a name. I think we went over this in a previous episode. It was like the Greg Reimer experience in my humorous retort. Uh, but no, we just got together in like our den and hooked up and played. That was fun.
What's cool is you three are still playing. I mean, all three of you are playing. I know Matt, you do a lot at your church, and Evan does stuff
Not,
at his church, but he also gigs, and
yeah.
Greg does a
I,
lot of. Greg's band, when it gets organized, does some gigs. So,
Yeah,
I was in a new wave band in college, um, reminiscent of like the Talking Heads and Devo and
well,
Depeche Mode and that kind of thing. That
what
was
were they called
pretty.
again?
We were called Codaphone, which was a
That's cool.
brand of answering machine. And I guess the story goes before I was a part of the band, they recorded their first song on the answering machine, so they called the band Codaphone after the name of the brand of the answering machine.
huh? Okay,
So yeah.
it's actually pretty clever. So,
So Kevin, if you have more questions, go ahead. I have more Evan stories later on.
well, Evan, like a couple memories like that stick out from your time in youth group. Plus, I think it's like you also like were in charge of the youth group for a year, right? Like kind of between Raleigh and Jim before Jim came. Like I don't know, a year, 6 months or something. So, so
Yeah. Yeah, we still don't know how that happened. God is gracious.
I heard you
I'll
did a
tell
great
you,
job. So,
it was a good time. The one I remember, Kevin, I don't know if Matt will remember this or not, but the funniest thing, and I don't want to embellish this too much, but I'm pretty sure it happened. See if it jogs your memory. My first time, I think, on a Sunday night to Yac, uh, everybody was out where the new sanctuary is now in that big yard area playing
Oh
with
yeah.
balls and just running around crazy. And our old friend Jimmy Stark and some other guys had their
Jimmy.
7-irons out there and hitting real golf balls, Greg. Kevin was letting him hit real golf balls. And
Towards the people.
Do you remember this, Kevin?
yeah,
No
have you
sooner, had
say
I,
it? Yes, like
no sooner had I gotten out of the car and walked out into the field, does Jimmy Stark hit a long one hop line drive off my forehead.
Oh no!
Real golf ball. So that was my welcome. That was my initiation.
Wow. Guess it's better than the girl that got beat up.
Yeah, it was definitely in that same
I do
league.
remember that now that you said it. This
Don't
is the
you
part of the show where I apologize.
Things we
I
got
thought-
away with in the 90s.
I thought of that the other day when I was thinking of stories.
What brought you to the youth group? Do you remember?
Well, Matt, that's a good question. I mean, we had come up to Berean my freshman year. We were still in Wichita, And I'm guessing it was just through some classmates at Berean talking about it or suggesting Grace as a church.
Okay.
So I was late to the game. Some of you guys told those early stories over at Cedar Village, and I was not around for those days. That was before my time, so it was a little later on.
So when did you guys move to Elbing? Because eventually you became a big city
Yeah.
kid living in Elbing.
I know. So that would have been after my freshman year, Kevin. We moved up there, I think the summer after my freshman year. We bussed up, and it was a long, early bus ride out of East Wichita for sure that year. But yeah, so then we went to Elbing and lived in a couple of different houses. There wasn't a lot available in Elbing back in those days for rentals or for purchase. And now Elbing's kind of, Matt and Greg, it's kind of experiencing a great resurgence in the real estate industry. You can hardly buy anything out there. There's new homes, new construction. It's kind of the place to be.
What happened to Benny's? What's going on with Benny's?
Yeah, good question. Benny's is a event venue, basically with a kitchen in it called De Vere's, and it's really neat. They do a lot of authentic German meal preparation there and served there. And then behind there, fellas, to the west, Dr. Andy Friesen, who obviously came through our youth group. Andy Friesen, who's a dentist now, picked up Benny's old house, Kevin, and has completely remodeled it in a fabulous way. You'd hardly recognize it. It's a hoot to drive through Elbing these days.
Did he build like an extension on it or something?
Yeah, a big one. It's a beautiful home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good question. Where are you living now? Maybe.
Yeah, thank you. Have you ever heard of a place called the Middle of Nowhere?
That's like all of Kansas.
We're out between we're out between Whitewater and Potwin, out in the rural area.
Okay.
On a little farm, and the kids love it, and they get to run and play. And we were in Wichita for the first 7 or 8 years of our marriage, but we moved out here about 5 years ago now.
Tell them about your hobby, though. What do you do out there? Your hobby?
The cattle. Yeah. We got into the Wagyu cattle business, so we're raising some American Wagyu cattle, and it's been a hoot. There's been some fun times. Sometimes it makes you yell. Sometimes you want to cry. But the product is really good. I slipped some into Kevin's hands the other day, and
it was delicious.
Yeah, would be happy to share some with you guys. But I always wanted to do that. I've always been kind of a food guy, and so this gave us the opportunity to do that out here in the country. And it's kind of a Green Acres scenario, Matt and Greg. You get a kick out of it. Like I don't pretend to know what I'm doing, so I just ask my neighbors a lot of questions.
That's cool.
And we learn as we go. We make a lot of mistakes, but it's been good. So
you're typing on Google like how to raise cows.
Exactly. And YouTube. I mean, we didn't have YouTube back in the 90s. Now you got YouTube. What can you not do, right?
Right. Yeah.
Do the kids get attached to the cows, or like are they sad when you butcher them, or do your kids they just kind of know that's the deal?
Yeah, there was a couple early traumatizing departures probably, but it's become old hat now.
Well, little kids, they get attached to stuff, and then you're like, nope, we're gonna eat. We're gonna eat through this. Yeah. So
is it like that scene on Napoleon Dynamite where like the school bus pulls up and the guy shoots the cow?
Oh man.
Greg, do you remember the name of the cow your dad raised when you were in high school?
I do not.
Sirloin.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I didn't even remember that. Did you just give somebody some money and then they raise a cow for him?
I think that's it. And it was some Emmaus connection, Busenitz connection. So
wow. Yeah, sirloin, that sounds familiar.
Wagyu beef. Is that the cow that like Jim Gaffigan talks about where you have to massage it and feed it alcohol or something?
Yeah, that is part of the deal back in Japan, especially. The thing is, a lot of people think that they feed it the beer to actually put pounds on it, but the alcohol actually just stimulates their digestive tract, so they eat more grain and corn, and they put on weight that way. And that supposedly the genetic of that breed of cattle is predisposed for more intramuscular fat deposits, so you get more marbling throughout the muscle.
Oh, cool.
And so it's got extra flavor and it's extra juicy, and it is a wonderful, wonderful meat. And yes, I do sell it, Matt, in case you're wondering. I'm a salesman for the breed.
Oh, well, we'll plug. Do you
I'm promoting it. I'm
do you have a
commercialing right
website?
now.
Do you have
We
a
do not
website?
have a website.
Oh,
We don't
okay.
believe in the internet, so
Do you have
no.
uh, do you have a phone number or something I can throw up if people
Oh,
want to get?
yeah,
Oh,
we can talk later about that. But it's been a neat hobby. It's been good for the kiddos, I think, too.
This
we do
episode
have
sponsored by
17.
Wagyu meat. Extra
Evan,
And we
market.
we do have 17 subscribers, so I mean, like,
okay. I love it. We do homeschool the kids. Did I understand you guys are doing some of that too?
we did for one of them in a kind of a transition year.
Okay.
But now my youngest, who is also 13, my youngest daughter, she's going to a co-op 4 days a week, and then my oldest daughter, who's 15, is doing online public school. So
Okay.
yeah,
Good.
Greg, you homeschool, right?
Yeah, they do a co-op 1 day a week, but then 4 days at home.
Hmm. We're doing a co-op every other week, one day, and we don't feel like it's enough. I think
mm.
we'd like to do that once a week deal potentially too.
Yeah. This co-op is set up like being at actual school. They go in at about 8:30 and go to 3 o'clock on 3 of the days, and then the fourth day is kind of a social get together, work on playing games and interacting with one another, and then they let out early on that day. But yeah, it's been really good for her. That structure and yeah, it's been really good. So
So
yeah,
take us back to youth group. What other memories you have besides getting clocked by a golf ball?
Well, Kevin, I do remember you being very intentional about trying to find things that we were interested in and using those to spend time with us and invest in us. And I appreciated that. And I remember you taking me and a buddy or two or three down to Wichita to look at guitars in pawn shops. And I think you got a kick out of that too. We'd go in and see all these crusty old guys in pawn shops and talk about gear, and I appreciated that. I remember you doing a good job of being intentional with that.
Les Paul. You bought a Les Paul at some point.
Yeah, I think my dad got me a Les Paul.
Kind of a
Uh,
sunburst kind of thing. So
yeah, yeah. I remember all the food games. I remember back then I wasn't really into them though. I wasn't one of the guys volunteering to eat as many marshmallows in my mouth as I could or drink all the water out of a hose. you, you remember those things, right?
yeah.
I do
We've come.
remember being I do
Go ahead.
remember being very hot and bothered on the Tahlequah canoe trip at different times. I remember there being some standoffs on that trip.
there was a mutiny.
I don't remember what was that about, Kevin?
I don't know, but a bunch of you wanted to go home and some of you didn't. And it was a kind of a heated discussion.
Yeah. Bunch of spoiled little kids, I'll tell you what.
But it all worked out.
I don't
What are the
remember that.
details of this? I don't know. I didn't hear about this.
What year was this? Because I don't remember that.
It's probably near Evan's junior year, probably.
Yeah.
Kratz and Graber were there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it would
And
have been
James
my
Mick.
senior year.
So
Zach Diamond.
that's right. It was really hot and humid, and some guys were just like, "This stinks," and they didn't want to. They didn't want to do the second day of the trip, and then like the rest of the guys were like, the minority was like, "Yeah, we want to finish."
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
And
Yeah.
so it was a heated discussion.
Were you having to carry the canoe like across like the
It was
the
just
land
it
a lot?
was just terribly humid. I don't know.
Well,
It was a nasty weather. It was
Yeah.
nasty.
you
So
can
if you were-
imagine, Greg, in a steel or aluminum canoe for 8 hours in the sun. It was a hot day.
Yeah.
If I remember right, the first day, Evan, you weren't in your canoe. You just held onto the side and had somebody paddle, and you got drug all the way down the lake.
That's the way you do it.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
It was miserable.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I remember going there like at least 3 times. One was with battalion, one was with our care group, or maybe it was just twice. But when
No,
we
it was
went,
miserable. But I remember the mutiny.
I thought like with a canoe trip, you paddle for an hour or two, and then you get to your campsite, and then you're camping the rest of the time. It sounds like you were canoeing the whole time.
Well, and it was just even the campsite was miserable. It was just
Oh,
no air. It was just terrible.
oh
So,
man.
so
wow, that's cool.
but I do remember the mutiny.
I do
Yeah, and
remember a
I
time.
remember our worship times, Kev, with on the
Hmm.
missions trips or the ski trips. I remember you letting us young guys that weren't very good players lead the worship, and that was a good growing experience for us to put together songs and learn how to lead worship. And I appreciated that about you as well. You were gracious in that with us.
Do you remember when? Did you go to any of the Rock Springs retreats?
I think that was early too.
Well, that may have been Greg. Greg, do you remember
Yeah.
when like we were doing a wrestling promo? Like the guys were gonna wrestle, and so they were videoing wrestling promos with
That was
some of
really
the.
early on. Yeah. So
I must have been there if it was early,
I
but
think you
man, I don't.
were.
That doesn't ring a bell.
Tim McElfresh was the butt kicker. He just kept yelling it.
Wow.
Uh,
Where was that?
Rock
Either Rock
Springs.
Springs or that Quaker Haven. I can't remember, but like I just
I
remember
remember Quaker
videotaping you
Haven.
guys screaming all these wrestling names.
Oh, wow.
You like pan down the line with the video camera, and people were flexing, and it was
Man,
cool.
I wish we had that video to show that.
I know, right? There's probably with all the other ones that we don't know where are.
I don't know, Evan. You were a very talented guitar player for your age, and also willing to try. How do I say that? I want to say this correctly. You were willing to try stuff. Like you know, you weren't. You were willing to wing it and try it and see how it went. So that
I
was
have
awesome.
this memory of you of jumping the Pancrats, the go kart over the ditch.
I don't remember that.
I think it was Graber, Pancrat, Andy, and you were on it, and I think you jumped the ditch, and it. I don't know if we got it started after that again.
Yeah, I am sad to say, Matt, that I do still drive like that, unfortunately.
Hey, well, you're doing something right.
Those trips were great, Kevin. Were they stressful for you to plan, or were you able to relax and enjoy those ski trips, for example, or the
I
bigger
think they're
trips?
you kind of once you get it, like the ski trip, we'd stay at a lodge or whatever. So that I mean, other than the transportation, that's always stressful. This car is going too slow, or this car smells leaking oil, or whatever. But transportation. But other than that, once you got there, it was really great. So
Yeah.
it was always relaxing. I thought. And so just it was. I just remember making those sandwiches and sitting in the lodge because I'd blown my knee up on a ski trip, so I quit skiing, and just it was just great time visiting and stuff. So
Yeah. Okay, I've got another one for you. Kevin, do you remember you mentioned the lodge, when we go to Monarch, remember we'd stay at those guys' lodge, that family had that lodge, and they were okay, but they weren't overly friendly. Remember those guys?
yeah.
And do you remember what Jimmy Stark, my dad was on the trip that year. Do you remember what he did to my dad's bag?
Uh-uh.
He went down, Greg and Matt, to the hotel bar. Jimmy
Oh
did, and he got in
no.
the trash can and got a bunch of empty beer bottles and took them back up to the room where my dad was staying and with Jimmy, and he loaded his bag up with beer bottles, and he waited till everybody got back in the room, and he like tripped over the bag and all this clanging. Goes, "Oh my gosh, Mr. LaRue, what are you?" I mean, only Jimmy would do that as a junior or senior in high school. Think all that up, and oh my gosh, it was a good one. You don't remember that one, Kevin?
I didn't know
Wow.
you say it. And your dad's a perfect one to do that with because he would just be like,
Right.
yeah.
So did he get Jimmy back then? Because your dad was the kind of guy who would have probably have retaliated for that.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think he did, Matt. I think he just laughed it off. I think he gave Jimmy props. It was a pretty clever prank, so he thought it was pretty funny. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Nice.
I'd forgotten that.
I have to
Um,
remember that. That's a good one.
I do remember a time. I don't know if it was the Kansas City trip, like if we went to Worlds of Fun, but was there ever a time where you would let us just go around the what's that called? The quarter up there, the
Oh, the plaza.
yeah, the plaza that we would walk around and stuff in groups.
Hmm.
I think so. And we can cut this out if you really want us to, but it's
Oh.
not that bad. It's not. It's not that bad. I think it was like you, Evan, and I don't know, Andy.
Cut,
Or
cut, cut, cut.
You bought like candy cigarettes, I think it was. And me being the rule follower, I was like, this is a bad idea. And I was like upset at you guys. And so then you guys were like, you wanted to see if one of the sponsors would say something. So you like put this candy cigarette in your mouth and was walking around with it, trying to see if you could get a rise out of one of the sponsors.
And did you?
I don't think anybody said anything.
I don't think. Yeah. I don't remember that being a deal. So, okay, so Evan, help me with this. Why did we start calling each other by our mom's names?
Oh, that's right.
Because
Kevin, you came up with that.
I don't know how that started, but it was like a period of my life. I was Donna for like 2 or 3 years of my life. You know, Marilyn would be like, "They call you Donna."
I honestly don't remember what started it. Was it a
And I remember
cultural
calling you
thing?
Connie for
I
forever.
remember that. I think Kevin. I think you came up with it somehow. I think
I just don't like,
it was like a funny thing to do
and
with
I
the
don't
guys.
like. Yeah, like we all did it for like just like a year or two, and then I remember like it got to the point where like I remember being in a chapel at Berean, and one of the faculty members said you can't use mom's names in your chapel.
Yeah, there was, yeah, Kevin, there was an
And I don't remember like
unsavory.
it was like an insult. It's just something we did. Like I don't remember being like demeaning or hazing or it was just something we did, and we just all thought it was hilarious. I
It
don't know
was
why we
funny.
started that, and I don't know.
That was '90s humor, man.
Yeah. Greg's just sitting there shaking his head, going, "Oh my gosh!"
But didn't Louis Weeby call a play like one time because the opposing coach was listening, and he's like, "Give the ball to Ruth, and then he'll pass it to Connie, and then Debbie will shoot the ball or something."
It got out of control. It got out of control. Yeah.
I don't remember like it ever being demeaning or like I don't remember how it started, but it's just like
I do remember like amongst friends, like you would just say something just in conversation, and it would be a thing to say. Your mom does that or whatever. Like you said, I went to the store today, and you'd say, well, your mom went to the store.
yep.
And then the other person would be like, good one. That was a thing in the 90s, at least amongst.
Well, I think we took it like another level.
That's great.
I think you took us, Kevin, up to visit Mid America Nazarene one time, Matt.
Yep.
You ended up there. I think we went up there to
Yeah.
visit it. I was on that trip, I think.
Oh, okay. What was I already there? Because I was there from fall of '96 through 2000, summer of 2000.
I went and saw Matt one time at Mid America. This came up another, and there was a scabies outbreak or something while I was there.
In our bedroom, yeah. My roommate and I had like scabies or something. So
They're like, it's okay, like we're not lethal anymore or something.
we had seen the doctor, we had gotten the spray and stuff, and Kevin sprayed the couch down again really well with the spray that he was gonna lay on, and good times.
Were we going, Kevin? Were we going to Brahms every night after youth group, pretty much when you were there?
Mm-hmm.
Did we start that then? Yeah, that was a long running tradition. I mean, a long running.
And Brahms is still there. They've expanded too.
I just remember we'd stay a long time, play ball afterwards, and then go eat ice cream. And you think about that today, how much time we were together on Sunday night. Like,
Yeah.
I remember that certain people would come at 6 and play ball while I was setting up, and they'd be there from 6 to like 9:30 or 10, and then we'd run to Brahms at 9:30 or 9 or something. Like we would spend a lot of time together, so which was really fun. So
Yeah.
people would come and go during that time. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
Then, speaking of old restaurants, do you remember Sirloin Stockade out there? That was a great
Oh yeah.
place to go for the
Yep.
salad bar.
Now it's just a sad, empty building. So,
Oh,
Now they're reopening it, Kevin. They're putting this Mexican restaurant in there. Opens anytime.
okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
Nice.
You know, Kev, I remember you needing to navigate, and I know we had to navigate some after you were gone, just the whole public school, private school. There really wasn't a big homeschool contingent back then, but
Mhm.
it's interesting now as a father of homeschool kids. I don't know if you guys can relate to this. You do have kind of emotional dynamics around that, you know, and whether your kids are being included or excluded. So I'm
Yeah.
sure that was tougher waters to navigate for you, Kevin, than we probably realized back at the time. Any thoughts looking back on that of how that was executed or done?
I think it was kind of class by class. There were classes where it just wasn't a deal, and there were
Mhm.
classes where it seemed really difficult, to navigate sometimes. So, but I think they're always like people that are glue people. They're Berean people that are glue. I mean, I think I'm talking to three glue people right here. And so they're always glue. Like they're always willing to have friends that they don't go to school with every day of their life. Like they kind of, and I think you get a handful of students in the youth ministry that are willing to kind of be glue and some sponsors that are willing to be glue. I think it kind of works out. So, I mean, I remember some of the Newton High kids would go to Berean on a day off and I remember Daniel Mick spent a day at Berean, and like he doesn't have to do that, but he wanted to, like, he got a day off of school and he went to extra day of school, but he wanted to connect with the kids in the youth group that were from Berean. And so just, I think there are people who just go to each other's games and stuff. If you could kind of build that bridge, I think that was the biggest thing. And some years that's really easy because the students in the youth group want to do it, and some years it seemed like really, really hard
Mhm.
sometimes. But so I also think
That's
trying not to act like you have a preference, like you like spending time on both campuses and trying to, I don't know, trying to also model that as well helps. But there were years it was easier because the students make it easy for sure. So I don't know. I don't think that was ever. You're a public school kid that went to Berean, so you could easily navigate that, Evan. And Matt enjoyed, I think, having friends from another school, and I think
Yep.
Greg enjoyed having friends from another school.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, it wasn't ever really about who went where. It was who it was fun to hang out with. So there was people fun to hang out with from public school and from Berean as well. So it just
yeah. But yeah,
That's,
sometimes it was more difficult than others. So for sure.
that's an interesting perspective. I wasn't really even aware
mm,
that was a thing, actually, at the time, anyway.
I think it's hard for some kids to walk into a room and like realize that, like, oh man, most of what happens during my week nobody knows about,
Mhm.
or you know. So
Yeah.
we have a nest, and I mean, almost all the kids go to Heston High School, so we have a random kid from another school. It's really hard sometimes, but you have kids that can make that connection on both sides. So yeah.
something that I constantly think about, at least in today's society, is when we were kids, we didn't have these things, and you could go home, and if you got picked on at school, hopefully home was your safe space uh, where you got along with your family, and you had a refuge away from that kind of thing. And youth group was like that as well. I mean, there was some joking around, and you could get picked on and stuff, but it was a safe space. And then going to camp, and Kevin, you were actually really good about taking us quote unquote ugly ducklings that didn't always fit in with everyone else, and make sure that we knew that we were valued, and um, that it's okay if you're having a bad day, or if
Hmm.
you got in a fight with your friends, or they're picking on you and ganging up on you and stuff like that. So
I would agree with that, Kevin. You were good about that. I really, and I wish I had learned as a young man to take more notes of that and been more aware and compassionate. As I look back, I do have a lot of regrets about that, and I can't go back and change it now, but I sure want to teach the next generation more of that. So, good point, Matt.
Yeah, I think it's really a lot harder to raise kids today with phones. So
Yeah.
so
in the internet.
I always felt like we were trying to make Yak a safe place. So it's good to hear that because that was,
Yeah.
you know, didn't really matter what you did at school. This was your time to be who you were here. So
Right.
Yeah.
well, Evan got another question. Like, besides your kids, because your kids are awesome, what gives you like life right now? What's exciting for you? What like hobbies or work or what's just like real exciting for you?
Yeah.
So
Well, I do. I mean, I really, really love music. I count that as a true gift from God, our Creator, because that really is a place where I can go and really enjoy not only the music, but entertaining people or leading them and engaging with people. And so I'm super thankful for that. Greg, I see your room of guitars. I love it. I mean, I collect gear when I can, and I enjoy that vintage American instruments and amplifiers. So that's kind of a release and a fun hobby for me. I do find joy in the kids. I find joy in redemption. I find joy in going through tough times together as a family. Because, fellas, I don't know about you, but I mean, I'm a dynamic person, and things are tough sometimes. And 1 minute they're really good, and 1 minute they're tough. And being able to come back together as a family after a tough time, and level with each other and confess and get on the same page again. Those are just really deep, meaningful times that I'm thankful for. So there's joy in family. It's not all fun and games, right? But there's deeper levels of joy in that. And I do enjoy my work. I'm blessed to be in a line of work. I'm so thankful. I knew I always wanted to be in sales. And Kevin, you probably remember better than Greg and Matt, but my granddad was a car salesman. And
Cool.
I thought I wanted to sell cars. And my dad said, "You're not selling cars." So,
Was
he
your
grew up in that kind of greasy 60s, 70s, 80s used car salesman environment with a father he wasn't always proud of. And so he didn't want that for me, right or wrong. But the Lord provided an outlet for me to use my love of people and creativity and deals to be in the real estate business. So I'm super blessed. I find joy in my work, getting to work with all kinds of different people and problems and transactions that require creativity. And I really, really appreciate that. I'm thankful for that in
Cool.
my life.
do you feel like you're at the stage where you're starting to mentor young salesmen too, Evan? Is that so part of because when I looked at your webpage, like you're at the top and there's all these young guys.
Yeah, yeah. We've had the privilege to do some of that, but I would just say I'd focus more on the people that poured into my life. Marlon Penner, like I said, that grabbed me and brought me into the business. He was a huge part of my life, and he did that for me. And so, yeah, I guess so, Kevin. I don't see myself in that in a formal setting, but yeah, I enjoy communicating and just doing life with people. And I think you did that well. Maybe I learned some of that from you. It just going to Wichita on a Saturday to look at guitars. That's mentoring. It doesn't have to be a formal arrangement. So yeah, I think we've done some of that, and I pray that we're doing it in the right way. And I'm thankful for those opportunities. Well,
That's
yeah,
cool. That's really cool.
yeah.
So, so. All right.
I do.
We always kind of end with me. Sometimes not always, but a lot of times we try to ask some kind of just random question.
I
Okay.
have
Five
another
best guitarists of all time.
Oh,
Oh, the five best guitar. Oh
five.
man,
Wow.
that's hard.
So,
Greg, that's not a fair question. Five.
It's a tough one.
all right, maybe
Yeah.
the five that you think influenced you the most.
Yeah. George Harrison. George was a very, in my opinion, underrated guitar player. Very accurate. Could do a lot with very simple phraseology and touch and technique. And I appreciated George Harrison a lot from the early days on. I would probably say, I'm not saying he's a technically gifted player, but Rich Mullins wrote some great songs, and I like the way he used the acoustic guitar to write with. He's always stuck out to me. Um, I mean, I think Eric Clapton has done a lot for the guitar on a lot of different spectrums of music, and it's a little bit of a generic choice, but I mean, he's a great player. He had great tone in different ways in many different phases of his career. How am I doing so far, Greg? Am I failing miserably?
No, that's great. That's great.
Here's a lesser known one that I'm a huge fan of. Mike Campbell from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Mike's
Oh,
an
okay.
Mm,
excellent player. Excellent player. And the thing I appreciate about Mike is I've seen him live several times. Mike can play the songs exactly as they recorded them in the
Oh,
studio
cool.
night after night. And I
That's awesome.
appreciate that. I understand jam bands, I understand freedom, but I do appreciate a band that can get up on stage and reproduce what they want to reproduce accurately night after night. How about a country guy? Um, oh,
Wasn't there some country guys that were
Chet Atkins.
about picking and grinning?
yeah, Chet Atkins is a serious player, Kevin. I'd probably go with Carl Perkins. What he did for rockabilly really influenced so many people forward. So those would probably be my five. You can
Nice.
Greg,
take
who
it.
would you add?
Yeah, who am I
Greg, Matt,
missing?
who would you add?
I think I gave you a list last time, but
That was Raleigh's episode that I'm editing now, I think.
Okay.
yeah,
You did.
there was
said
Mark
Clark,
Knopfler of Dire Straits. He was pretty good. Um,
Van
and then
Halen.
there's the guy from Extreme. Just he's
Oh,
more of a shredder. Like,
Guy Sharon, Gary Sharon, Gary.
he's the lead singer. What's
Okay.
Nuno Betancourt is his name, I think.
Okay.
Like he's just insane. Like in terms of like heavy metal rock guitar.
Yeah.
Which
Um,
which band for those of us who aren't as
Extreme.
it's called Extreme.
extreme?
Yeah.
Cool.
Matt, you got a favorite guitarist
Guitarist
Or drummer.
or
or
drummer.
drummer?
Wasn't like the Led Zeppelin drummer one-handed?
Def Leppard.
Oh,
Def
that's
Leppard.
Def Leppard.
Def Leppard, the guy's one-handed, but I think he puts a lot of tracks down.
Oh yes, my favorite. So my favorite would be Phil Collins.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Saw him a couple times in concert as well. That was
Yeah.
those was really good shows, and yeah, he could do it all.
So I don't.
Next time you
I
play.
think-
Because
Yeah, I need to let you know next time we play. I got to look at the calendar. I'm not sure, but don't give up on the idea of getting everybody together at some point in the
All
future.
right.
I think that would be awesome.
So
And maybe
you know
we
a
could-
guy who has a place like out in the country between Whitewater
Yes,
and Potwin that
I
we could go
do.
to? So
Plenty of room. We could have a music festival.
we've got some Wagyu cattle and
Woodstock.
we could have a festival out there. Put the bands back together.
Put a band together. Yep.
Next time Matt or Greg, you guys are coming back, let us know. Maybe we can build something around it and have a
Oh,
get together,
I'm
big or
s-
small.
I'm
Yeah.
so rusty. I haven't played for.
Yeah,
Pick
you'll
it-
get
pick
it
it up
back like
again.
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I was gonna say the one other. The last time that I saw you in person was at my 10-year high school reunion. You showed up out of the blue.
Really?
Yeah, it was 2006. We were at Athletic Park. You showed up in like flip-flops, and I don't know if you surely you may have known somebody in my class of 96 but I remember you stopping in.
Man. Well, I am kind of a class reunion crasher, so it doesn't surprise me. I don't remember that, Matt. I'm trying to think of what in the world that would have been about, but if you say
Yeah.
I was there in flip flops, I'll take your word for it.
I remember you showing up at Heston College once. You played a gig at Heston and then kind of hung around for a couple weekends. So
Nice.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it was probably one of your college bands. It could have been. It could be worse. So I think you did. I think you
Might
did
have
a
been.
college and then you kind of hung around dropped back by a couple times. And hung
There
out.
you go. Yeah. No, man, I think what I wanted to do on this was just say how thankful I am for the foundation that was laid. And
Definitely.
Kevin, I'm not saying it was perfect, but it was definitely instrumental in my life, and I'm thankful for that. And there are other people that spoke into me, and I mean it, guys. I'm just super thankful for God's grace. He's been patient with me, and there are a lot of things that I wish I would have done differently over the years. And like I said earlier, I can't go back and change them, but I am so thankful, and I want to live my life accordingly. And
I think-
lots of fond memories. I tell my wife, man, that 94 to 2002, that was kind of a golden era. 2004, I have a lot of fond memories from then.
Good. Thanks, Evan. So
Yeah,
it's so good to see you. It's so good to hang out.
Yes.
A couple weeks ago. So
Thanks for having me on. Let's keep talking either way.
all right.
Sure.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Night, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
See ya. Bye-bye.